Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another pre-modern Magic Online match. I'm Michael Hoyp. Today I'm going to be playing Lester, but first I'm going to talk about the deck that I'll be playing, which is the Draco Explosion deck. So I'll briefly go over some of these cards and what I'm trying to do. So this is a red-black mid-rangey deck, but then also has a combo finish. So the element of a Dark Ritual is usually used to ramp out a card like Hypnotic Specter or Phyrexian Arena. Then there are cards that disrupt your opponent's game plan, 4 copies of Duress, and then also 4 copies of Mesmeric Fiend. That can either slow down a combo opponent or give you some information or just kind of be a bump in the road so that you might be able to get to the point where you're able to cast Insidious Dreams. 3 Grim Lavamancer. This is the deck where this Grim Lavamancer is not at its best. You're not always going to be able to activate it. Like the first activation is pretty free, but then the second one you kind of have to work for. So 3 copies are in there. It's not at its best in this deck, but it pulls its weight. 4 lightning bolts. So this is a great way to interact, and then also because your main combo does 16 points of damage, you often need to chip in for some other damage, and lightning bolt is a good way to do that. Talk about Mesmeric Fiend as a disruptive element. There's 2 copies of Terminate that I'm playing. That's just to have some answers, a game against the creature decks, but also mostly like for card like Phyrexian Dreadnought, so that you have at least an out to them resolving that in game one. So Hypnotic Specter is a great turn one play if you can get it out of a Dark Ritual, but it's just another disruptive element and can be really problematic for slower decks. Phyrexian Arena is a good way to get card advantage if you're kind of grinding things out, trading bolts and burn spells for creatures and whatnot. You can win a long game with Phyrexian Arena. And then these last 3 cards kind of add a different element to the deck. The card Insidious Dreams allows you to discard X cards, and then you get to tutor for that number of cards and put them on top of your library. So if you discard 2 cards, you're able to put Erratic Explosion and Draco on the top of your deck, then draw the Erratic Explosion, and deal them 16. One thing I know about this list is I have played a scroll rack in the past, and the idea is if you do draw Draco that you're able to put it back on top. But the games that I played, like if I do draw the Draco, it's unlikely that I'm going to have the time to like play Insidious Dreams, get scroll rack, play scroll rack, put Draco on top, and then Erratic Explosion. So I kind of just chalk it up, say, all right, if you draw Draco, it's bad. It's not fun, but it's something it's an element you play with. It's a risk you take. Moving on to the sideboard, Lava Dart is just a way to deal with small creatures decks. You don't have that many mountains to sacrifice, but there's only 2 copies, so 2 overload, pretty much a nod to the Phyrexian Dreadnought decks. It's a way to deal with one that's resolved. There's 3 different of the blast versions just to deal with blue spells, and then 3 engineered plague against the tribal decks. You can kind of maybe play a little bit grindier of a game and go semi-control route if you're able to resolve 1 or 2 plagues. 4 Phyrexian Negators, which will allow you to have a aggressive clock in combination with Dark Ritual that you can slam it down and really put some pressure on your opponent. And then there's 1 copy of Dystopia that you can either draw or maybe you can tutor for to get rid of problematic white or green permanents. Most likely like some kind of enchantment or something that black and red decks usually have trouble dealing with otherwise. So that's the deck. I'm going to be heading down to play with Lester, and we'll see how things go. Okay, we're here for game 1. I had a little trouble with the recording, so I'm going to do the replay for this one. I am on the draw, and Lester has chose to keep his 7 cards. I'm looking at this hand, and it has the ability to cast a turn 1 Hypnotic Specter. Also, I guess I could opt for a Duress if I want to play it safe and then play the Hypnotic Specter on turn 2. But definitely a good solid hand for this deck. So Lester leads off with a Flooded Strand. I draw a second Dark Ritual, so that gives me kind of the best of both worlds, that I'm able to get a Swamp and then Ritual and Ritual again, and now I'm able to first Duress and then play the Hypnotic Specter. So after Duressing, we see a hand of Daze, Enlightened Tutor, Stifle, City of Brass and Island. So it's kind of nice that drawing that second Dark Ritual allows the Daze, because a lot of times when you're playing with Daze, you're probably thinking, I think you're going to 2-for-1 because they're going to spend all their mana after the Dark Ritual, but since I had the second one, I was able to play around a Daze. I'm going to take the Stifle here since he has redundant copies of Enlightened Tutor. So Daze is just a card I need to keep in mind. So Stifle goes, and then I'm able to resolve a Hypnotic Specter with a mana floating, so Daze doesn't do anything. So Lester fetches an island, then goes to his next turn. So so he plays a Plains, so we still know all the 5 cards in his hand, and he passes the turn. So here I have the option of playing Bloodstained Mire or Mishra's Factory. I guess in theory, because he could be, I guess we know his hand, so he's not going to be Enlightened Tutoring for a Phyrexian Dreadnought and then putting that on top and then being able to make one. So I still, in theory, will be able to play it. Plus, I guess he has the Daze that we know about. So it seems pretty safe to just play the Mishra's Factory. So that gives us the option to attack with it next turn. So I'm going to attack with the Hypnotic Specter to see what we get. And one of the Enlightened Tutors are gone. Okay. So we'll pass the turn. Lester will cast Enlightened Tutor for Ancestral Knowledge. So this is a 2-mana enchantment. It has cumulative upkeep 1, and when it comes into play, you get to look at the top 10 cards of your library, exile any number of it, and then put the rest on top of your library in any order. But then when it leaves play, you have to shuffle your library. So it's kind of like a super index or kind of like an impulse, but you have to keep it around for the turns you want to get benefit out of it. So he's going to cast the Ancestral, so that one's out of his hand. So, well, he's exiled a City of Brass, a Flooded Strand, a Duress, Enlightened Tutor, a Daze, a Seal Cleansing, and he chose to exile a Phyrexian Dreadnought. So 3 cards go on top of his deck. He passes the turn. Okay, so I will play the Bloodstained Mire. Go get a mountain so it doesn't get stifled on his turn or something. Activate the Mishra's Factory, attack for 4. See what card we get out of his hand. This card's a Daze, so that one's gone. Okay, so he'll play an island, so that one's gone. And then he doesn't do anything else. So yeah, just one Hypnotic Specter against this deck because they need 2 cards in combination, so it's really hard if you don't have them in your hand to draw them one at a time because he's getting hit by Hypnotic Specter every time. So now I need to consider whether I want to play this Insidious Dreams, because if I play Insidious Dreams, if I play Swamp Insidious Dreams, discard these 2 cards, which the Terminate is kind of like my failsafe against him resolving like a Dreadnought. I'm able to get Draco and Erratic Explosion and kill him. That's a little unnerving, like because he might have like another Daze or a counterspell or something. But given that we made him discard a Daze that he had, we know that the unknown. Oh, he used this in Enlightened Tutor. Sorry. So we know he has 1 City of Brass and then 1 unknown, and the 1 unknown is a card that he got with Ancestral Knowledge. Seems pretty unlikely that you're going to get Daze on top of your library with the Ancestral Knowledge. So I don't think it's likely that he has a counterspell. So I am planning on playing this Insidious Dreams. I'll attack first. That way maybe I can get the last card so I have perfect information. I hit the City of Brass, so now he has 1 unknown. So I'll play Swamp, and I was going to cast it, and I just thought might as well let him pay for cumulative upkeep, or since he's going to have to tap either his mana or let his Ancestral Knowledge die. So taps here, this is where I will cast Insidious Dreams, discard 2 cards, hit Erratic Explosion, Then I'll get Draco, put them on top, be able to cast it next turn. So he has a sleight of hand, and then he concedes. So it took it down. The quick Hypnotic Specter was really fortunate that I drew that Duress, because that allowed the Duress to kind of slow him down, because he had Lane Tutor and Stifle, and it protected my Hypnotic Specter from a daze. So once this is in play, the Stiflenought decks usually have a lot of trouble. So let's move on to game number 2. Okay, we're back for game 2. I am on the draw. Looking at this hand, it has a good amount of disruption, but it just doesn't have any pressure. So I think this would just give the deck enough time to combo off. Plus he has, I guess, the potential of making a turn 1 Dreadnought. So I'm going to mulligan this. This hand does not interact very well at all, given that the red removal spells aren't very good against a Dreadnought. It does have Hypnotic Specter, but that could be really slow. So I do choose to keep this. It doesn't look like the best hand. It doesn't interact very well. Put a Phyrexian Arena on the bottom. Thought process there is, if I think the Hypnotic Specters, if they're able to resolve that should be enough to kind of take over a game. So Lester starts with a Flooded Strand, and luckily I draw a Dark Ritual. That really makes this hand a lot better for the turn 1 Hypnotic Specter. So hoping to avoid a daze. It looks like we do, and now we just need to avoid Swords to Plowshares. Okay, Enlightened Tutor. So he's getting a Dreadnought, so I guess this might be too slow. That he's playing a Dreadnought, and he does have the Stifle. Okay, so even if I draw Terminate, my Tainted Peak won't be able to tap for colored mana, so I can't even terminate this Dreadnought. Otherwise, I think that's really my only interaction card, and I can't really race it, so draw Duress. I'll take a look at his hand, try and figure out a little bit more. He's got 2 dazes and a Polluted Delta. Okay. Going in there. I can't play any of these other spells because of Tainted Peak. He attacks for 12. I go down to 6. Now I draw this lovely Terminate, but not only does he have daze, but I can't cast it, so looks like I'm out of luck. I'll attack one more time for good measure, just so I can maybe see a card that I hadn't seen before, and he discards an Ancestral Knowledge. And then I'm dead. So now let's move over to game 3, where we have sideboard games. Okay, so here we're for game 3, and this is the sideboard after I had boarded. So I decided to bring in 4 Phyrexian Negators, the 2 Red Elemental Blasts, 1 Pyroblast, and 2 Overloads. That's a total of 9 cards. So I took out the Insidious Dreams Erratic Explosion Draco package, so that's 6 cards. The thought there is because this deck is just has the potential to go so quick that I might not be able to get to turn 4 and then 5 to spend that. Plus he does have cards like Daze that if I'm spending that much mana and discarding cards to cast Insidious Dreams, I don't want to get dazed. And then I took out the Grim Lavamancers because, well, it could hit something like a Meddling Mage. I just don't think that I'm going to get that many activations out of it, and I just think lower impact than some of the other cards I brought in. So I'm on the play. Okay, so this hand has 2 removal spells. They're pretty good at getting Dreadnought, but it just doesn't have any pressure. So it's kind of awkward. I don't know if these are the hands that you should be keeping against the Dreadnought. Like if he were to, certainly there are things that can go wrong. If he goes Duress into Meddling Mage, then it's really problematic. Or if he just sets up time to sculpt a hand, but I'm going to mulligan to look for something more aggressive given that I'm on the play. This hand is close to being exactly what I want since it has 2 Dark Rituals, Negator, Phyrexian Arena, but this Tainted Peak is kind of staring right back at me, and since I don't have a swamp, it's not going to be able to make black mana, so I got to throw this back. Here is a similar hand that just has 1 land and a bunch of 3-drops. It has a Duress and a red, but then 2 red spells that I can't cast. I don't think this hand is worth keeping. I guess you can mulligan to hands that have, like, I think any of the turn 1 Negators, Hypnotic Specters, and Phyrexian Arenas are better, so I think it's just higher odds of winning by mulliganing. Here's another 1-lander and a bunch of red cards. I don't think this does anything, so I'm going to go down to 3 cards. And here, at least I have, I guess, a chance. I have Swamp, Ritual Negator that I can put a clock out there and then maybe take away if he has a more reactive hand, planning on duressing me or something, then I can steal a game. So I'll put Red Elemental Blast and 3 Mesmeric Fiends in the bottom and start off by playing this Negator. He's an island and a sleight of hand. I draw a mountain, so I get to attack. I'll play my mountain. Opt. He puts a card on his bottom of his library and then has another island. So there's been no Dreadnought, so that's good. I'll draw Mishra's Factory, which if it were a turn earlier, I guess would have increased the clock, but here I will just attack for 5 more and play the factory. An end of turn opt that puts another card on the bottom of the library. And this Flooded Strand will get a Plains, and a Meddling Mage will come down. Okay, so I can still attack with the Dreadnought, or not the Dreadnought, the Negator, deal 3, and then lose 2 permanents. I'd also be willing to trade the factory for the Meddling Mage. He is going to name Terminate, so I only got 2 copies in my deck, but I guess he's trying to protect his Dreadnought. Draw Dark Ritual, which doesn't do much here, so I'll fire up the factory and attack with both. I expect him, yep, he does block the Meddling Mage, so with the Meddling Mage, so trample over for 3, deal 2 with the factory, now I gotta sack 2. So I could keep the Swamp because I have a Dark Ritual, and then cards like Hypnotic Specter or Phyrexian Arena or another Negator are good draws. I could keep the Mountain, so I could draw a Lightning Bolt, and so that even if he does get something like a Dreadnought down, I could just finish him off with a direct damage spell. Or you could even make the argument, I guess, for Mishra's Factory. Though I don't like it that much. I guess if he were at 2, then it would be, I think, probably the correct play. But given that I need to draw a mana to activate and it doesn't really change the clock, I think I'm going to sacrifice the Factory first. Okay, Factory's gone. And then the Mountain. So I keep the Swamp in thoughts that I can play more spells with the Dark Ritual. So I just need to hang in 1 more turn. So we have an Enlightened Tutor during the upkeep to get a Dreadnought. And that Stifled, if it were a Vision Charm, that'd be much, much better for us since it wouldn't be able to block. So I draw a Mountain. Okay. That Terminate's now live. I certainly can't attack with this Negator. That wouldn't be very good. But it's kind of awkward for him because he can't really attack. I just crack back for lethal. So he's using an Impulse. He does attack. I guess that's bad for me. If he does have Swords of Plowshares, though, I will go up to 13, and that will give me another draw step to draw something like Bolt. Bloodstained Mire is not very good. This is just a land, but I'll attack. There is a Swords of Plowshares, so I'm at 13. I can't really use this Bloodstained Mire, since it would cut off an entire turn. So I'm going to go to 1, and Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt. No, another Swamp, so I lose that game. So let's move on to game number 4. game number 4, I did the same sideboard plan. I do think maybe it's possible that the Insidious Dreams are okay, that you could bring it in just for just like huge reach, but I think some of the games are just going to be too quick for it. So I'm on the play. I'm going to look for just a fast start with a Negator, Hypnotic Specter, or a Phyrexian Arena. And here I have Ritual and Hypnotic Specter. That's really what I'm looking for. So I get to run that out and hope he doesn't have a source of plowshares for this Hypnotic Specter. Okay. He is fetching. There is a source of plowshares, so now I don't really have any pressure. I don't think I need to cast Overload or Terminate on the next turn. If he did have Dreadnought into Vision Charm, then it makes it a little bit awkward because I'm not able to untap and blow up his Dreadnought. And then he could have Counter Magic or something. So I think it's just more likely that he doesn't have and willing to play Dreadnought into Vision Charm, that I'm just more likely to want to attack with the Factory the next turn. Alright, so he fetches an island. Let's have a Dreadnought, so we're hoping for Stifle, so we can take advantage of this. No, we have a Vision Charm. So the Dreadnought gets phased out. Alright, I draw another Factory, so I'm going to want to play the Sulfurous Springs so I can deal with it once it's phased back in. I do have the option of attacking with Mishra's Factory and then using Overload on the Dreadnought during his upkeep. The problem is I'd be tapped out then, and I wouldn't be playing around days. So I think it's better just to skip out on the 2 points of damage and make it more likely that this Overload resolves. And it does. So that's a pretty good feeling that we're able to take out the 2 cards with that 1 card. So a little bit of card advantage there. So now he kind of has to put those pieces back together to assemble his combo. Gonna fetch for an island. Play Meddling Mage. And this Meddling Mage name's Terminate. Well, that's a little unfortunate given that we do have 1 in our hand, but we're looking for a card like Lightning Bolt or Red Elemental Blast that we can get rid of the Meddling Mage. So Mishra's Factory allows us to attack with this Factory, since I can make it a 3/3. And he'll take it down to 14. And now he has an interesting choice of whether he wants to attack with the Meddling Mage and then kind of trade 2 damage for 4 damage. I guess we're at his upkeep. He's casting Enlightened Tutor, getting the Phyrexian Dreadnought. Okay, so he's already playing another Dreadnought. So yeah, and has Stifles. Yeah, so isn't it? He's got 1 card in his hand, but yeah, I was a little surprised that how quickly he could reassemble the combo after I killed the first one with the Overload. So he was an attack for 2 with the Meddling Mage. I'm at 18. I draw another Terminate, which is unfortunate. I guess it could be good if I draw like a Red Elemental Blast or a Bolt. I guess the problem here is he's going to attack for me once, and I only have 1 red source, so I'm not going to be able to do that. So gotta attack with the Dreadnought because of the Mishra's Factories. I go to 16 or 6. And the Swamp is not going to do it, so I am dead. So Lester takes down the match, 3-1. I'm not exactly sure if my sideboard plan was the right approach. Some of these games, I guess, did go a little bit longer than I thought, and maybe it is a little bit easier just to burn it out. So maybe I don't know, Negators are just too slow since it's like a 4-turn clock and it just gets shut down by Dreadnought and it doesn't disrupt them in any way. So maybe it's just better to have the Draco Explosion package in. So that'll be interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if there are certain matchups that you'd like me to play, let me know and we'll try to get it done. But thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.